Hope you all enjoyed the previous talk. We're going to move on with our second speaker, which is Lukassen. Chris is head of product here at Baseflow. He's a well-known voice within the product marketing community. He has worked on within several companies such as TomTom, Saab, Thales. He knows a lot about product management. Give it up for Chris Lukassen.
Now I need to explain what TomTom is to the rest of you. Nobody remembers that. So, very cool that you're all here. I really liked Abdullah's talk. Especially like slide number 12, where he explained that you can plug in any model in his framework. Because I think that's really important. That's basically the summary of my entire talk. I wanted to talk to you about how AI actually changes the way we work, the way we organize organizations. And as with any great talk in the tech community, this is a love story. Or more like a drama, but we'll get to that part. Don't worry, at the end there is a technical checklist for you guys if you are more into tech. But the story mainly is about that kind of boyfriend or girlfriend that you may have had in the past or may not have had in the past or long for. But maybe looking back, that was not the most healthy relationship. And this was the best image that Google came up with when I typed bad boyfriend. Bad boyfriend, the other ones I cannot share. But imagine sexy, rock and roll, it's like super cool. It's an amazing time, and all the time you're wondering, is this possible? And to be honest, she's spending way more than she should. And she's telling me it's going to be fine. We're all going to recuperate that. And then we get into fights. She drags me along into fights that I really don't want to be in there, but I also want to make a good impression, so I sort of go along. And she has the coolest trinkets in the world. She has the most amazing stuff that we get to play with. And that's basically what's happening. So, until we reach the point that she starts calling us names. And the relationship changes a little bit in nature. And looking back, this is the point in time where we probably should have made a stronger stance. And probably should have thought about, hey, what is actually in this for myself? I'm of course talking about the relationship between US and Europe, especially in the tech domain. It's a tech talk. But you will find that that relationship has strong similarities with a kind of a toxic relationship. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And every now and then I need to look back at my... So it's basically politics, but don't worry, there's beer at the end of it. 12 June, middle of the night, Anthropic pulls the plug on Fable 5. I'm a product manager, like Thomas told. I love building products. And I've seen more and more products where AI gets embedded into the product. And I think we just had a very good example of that. Imagine having built your product on the latest model from Anthropic. Being super proud of it on the 12th of June up until roughly midnight. And then waking up in terror that your product no longer works. And that is a thing now. That happens. And the rug basically got pulled under from people that are using that. And until yesterday, it was unavailable. It's like an old boyfriend coming back to you saying, no, I've changed, I'm back. That's sort of why I should do that. But the irony is I actually built a presentation with Claude. So. And
with Fable 5?
That was not Fable 5.
Okay.
I had a little bit of it. The thing is, this is not a new thing. We have been here before. We've been here before when we started moving stuff into the cloud. I'm green, old people. I remember when we had computers somewhere in the cupboard with a post-it on it saying, don't switch this off. And then it became popular to move stuff to the cloud, and it was super easy. I have to give you that. It was also super cheap. But it was also no longer your data. It was no longer your server. And we started moving everything to the cloud, and everything was stored somewhere else, and processes were running somewhere else, predominantly in the US. And I'm really glad that I did this. Switched away from with Google head on, because a lot of our stuff moved to Google, and in 2018 you had the US Cloud Act. And US Cloud Act basically tells you if your data is stored on a server of a company that is headquartered in the US, it is our data. And you can let that sink in. So even if your server is in Ireland, because we will, oh, we'll put it in Ireland or in Berlin, no. No, they can still have access to your data if they really want to. And a lot of times we are in this like toxic relationship. We know this isn't product. They're never going to do that. Oh yes, they do. This was early this year. They pulled data from Dutch civil servants and gave it to American government. I'm deep for all the details. These people were working on the privacy laws, on the big data. I forgot the name. There's like this law, a European Unit, Digital Privacy Act or something. GPA. Yeah, it's somewhere in my notes. Anyway, they were working there. They're just civil servants. Their email, their files, all their stuff is now accessible for the American government. This is not a healthy relationship. And as a product owner, if this is my product, I would feel really bad about this. So I need to find a way around to architect. And in the beginning, it all felt like a great relationship. And you may wonder, how the hell did that happen? Like, how did we get here? And for people who read Hemingway once wrote gradually and then all at once. And I think that's a very fitting way for the situation that we are in. And you might also be in that situation. I don't know you. I'm not sure where you are, but you know you. And I also want to make the talk a little bit interactive. So what I want you to do is look to the left and your right, or behind you. And you probably have somebody that you either know or not know, but then you can make friends. I will give you 60 seconds to debate one question. So 60 seconds for the both of you. If you're the one doing all the talking, then the other person is doing all the learning. But that's up to you how to divide the time. I will give you 4 questions to debate. And this is the first question. Have you ever had a supplier that felt like this bad boyfriend, girlfriend, really exciting, super cool, and at some point you're thinking, hey, that's not really what I thought this relationship was going to be. The question for you is, what was the first sign that made you doubt that situation? You have 60 seconds, find the person, and debate the question. Go! They do this in kindergarten, so you should all be properly trained for this. Some people were unfortunately in the middle of a couple, so they were all alone. Make sure you get a partner next time, or look after your fellow man or fellow woman that did not have a partner in the previous conversation. There is somebody sitting next to you. There's always sitting somebody behind or in front of you. Well, that's going to be tricky for you too, but you'll figure it out. New partner. Behind you, from you, find a new partner. Second question. If the clicker works. The question is, where do you draw the line? So it's not that I'm against big tech or against the US at all, but there is a point in time where you decide as an engineer or as a product manager, this is where I draw the line. This is where I have to architect my way around it. What is that point in time or that dependency that you find is the most relevant point to take action? Is that a clear question? Yeah. Okay, find a person. 1 minute, go! Thomas forgot to mention I'm also a licensed PST, so I train people in Scrum and particularly in product ownership. In the Scrum Guide there's a line that says that the product owner is the sole person accountable and that nobody shall challenge the product owner on their authority. And then I try to keep a straight face. So the third question for you can go back to your original partner. The third question is, imagine you have a CEO who says, well, we have to use this product because it's super awesome. How do you convince the CEO or senior stakeholder in your organization that there might just be a risk with this approach? What arguments will you use in that conversation? Yeah? Go! Very good, you're getting better at this. Final question, we have this expression in Dutch, I'm not sure if it's in English as well, that love will make you blind. How did you fall in love in the first place? And I'm talking about products, huh? In the product space. And looking back, it's always easy, but what would be some things that you maybe should have made a little bit more careful about? What are some traits or things that you would look out for the next time you want to fall in love? Question clear? Yeah. Go back to that other partner or find another person that you haven't been talking to. 1, 2, 3, go! Very good. I love that you're so enthusiastic about it, and after all the talks you have drinks and you have met some new people, that you can have interesting conversation with and perhaps continue this conversation. I wanted to talk to you about how this kind of love journey happens, and I've discovered that there's like 5 phases to this whole process or steps in it, and basically every relationship goes through this arc. So this is a thing that's not unique to technology. Sorry?
So I went denial, anger, bargaining.
Yeah. Sounds fun too. Okay, to build on that, all models are wrong, some are useful. I forgot who actually made the quote. But a model is just a representation of the real world, and by definition it's always open for interpretation. So there might be multiple models to look at it. This is the lens that I took. And I came up with 5 steps that you sort of could experience, and whenever you come in contact with some new technology that may change the way you do business. And it always starts with the spark. And for us, very clearly, there was Maarten. And because most of the colleagues in Baseflow will remember that, at some point Maarten discovered ChatGPT and his output quadrupled. The quality wasn't always that good, but he was way more productive. And there were some general nuggets of wisdom in there that he probably wouldn't have produced without AI. I did get fed up with all the semicolons and the dashes and the emoticons and all this stuff that he produced. But he did do some really, really good research really, really fast. And I think this is exemplary for any organization that starts using that. There's always this one guy that starts doing Flutter or GenAI or something. And they for sure have not told IT. And they have started uploading the entire customer database and the contracts and whatever records they could find to make this cool summary for you. I'm not saying Maarten did this, but it might have done it. Yeah, as I said, product manager, I'm always interested in what drives people to the use case. Why are they using this? It's never about productivity. It is always about finding a deeper insight or making correlation that was previously more difficult to have. These use cases are super interesting because it will help you to figure out the guardrails for the rest of your organization. And the second step after the spark is, if you point the clicker in the right way, is the question, of course, hey, are we a couple? Are we exclusive? Are we still dating other people? And what I typically see is not exactly this lineup, but one department is using this tool, the other department is using that tool. Everybody is starting to experiment. It was really funny because this afternoon we had a discussion and Thomas was sitting next to me and said, oh, we have licenses for this and for that and for that. Why are we having 6 different AI? History. And this is also okay. This is also part of the process figuring out who needs what and why. What is important at this point in time is that you start thinking about guardrails in your organization. Baseflow is not an organization that is very hierarchical where the boss sets all the rules. We try to be deliberately chaotic, as Harry likes to put it. We're very good at chaotic. But we still need some rules. You just want the rules to come from the workflow. So how do you organize that? A trick that I've used in the past, and I think works really well, is to wikify the solution. Now, to wikify, you could also use Confluencify or Notionify, whatever your sharing tool is. I like Wiki, everybody knows what that means. To wikify the solution, meaning if you have some kind of brilliant idea of rules and guardrails, create a wiki page saying, hey guys, I think that if you use AI, this is really important. For example, thou shalt never upload customer data to an AI without first having obfuscated it. That might be a good rule. The brilliance about it is that by putting it in a wiki, 3 things happen. There are people who will totally ignore it. That is important because I don't want you to ignore it. I'm not making decisions on a high level, I'm making decisions on the work floor. I don't want people to go off on their own. So I need you to be part of this conversation. Then 2 things will happen. The first part will be, hey Chris, this sounds like a really cool rule. By the way, this is a tool that I use to obfuscate the data. Hey, that's nice, because I don't know everything. If you have a better solution to solve certain problems, share it. build on this together. And the other part is, hey Chris, I totally disagree with you, which is also fine. At least now the debate is happening in the open space. The fourth thing that, I said three things. There's a fourth thing that will happen from a managerial perspective. Wikipedia has something really cool which is called the changelog. I care less about the content, because you're all brilliant, so you'll figure that out. I care about the changelog, because at some point the organization will gravitate towards what they think the truth is, and then there's two people in the organization who violently disagree. If they participate, you can see this in the changelog. Chris says, hey, let's do it like this. Rick says, no, we're going to do it like this. No, we're going to do it like this. And at that point in time, you can bring these two people in the room and say, hey, I'm not sure which one of you is right, but you're going to figure it out. So it's a nice way to facilitate this kind of consensus from the organization itself. So Wikify that solution. Have the hard questions out in the open before people start uploading everything into a model or doing something else. All right, number 3. Point in that direction. You start to move in together. And moving in together costs money. So you can recognize this phase very easily because somebody allocated a budget. They bought either a bunch of tokens or licenses, or somebody's spending money. And I'm not sure how it works in the organization, but if somebody spends money, they want something in return. Now, oddly enough, every organization I've been to so far managed to get some kind of funding. None of them has set any boundaries on what success looks like. So my recommendation would be, if you start spending money, at least define what you believe success is, or what your exit criteria is. Hey, we're going to give your team so many credits or so many licensing clauses. By the way, we think that this is going to help you with productivity, design, cycle time, deployment time, talking to customers, I don't know. But write down what you expect. At least now you have something to benchmark against and say, oh, that didn't work. Cool, let's try something else. If you don't set an exit criteria, your experiment will always be a success.
Or failure.
Or a failure. Well, basically, if you don't set criteria, you're basically testing, will something happen? Yeah. And something always happens. Mm-hmm. You just can't learn from it. So this is an interesting discussion. I guarantee you, your CFO has something in his brain when he signed off on Claude or Mistral or whatever. He may not have shared it with you. Yeah. Or you may end up in this situation. You may end up in a situation that you start to regret what actually happened. Maybe you committed a little bit too fast. And again, this is what I like with Abdullah's talk, that if you can still switch, that is a good thing. The trend that we see nowadays is that tokens are getting more and more expensive, and people are starting to realize that AIs are not for free. And Uber managed to spend their entire budget for AI in 1 quarter. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with the rest of the year, with pen and paper probably. No, they're going to spend 3 or 4 times more what they allocated to it. And that's going to be a problem for them. There's one company that actually reported on it, they didn't give us the name, but they managed to spend $500 million in a month. Now, our CFO looks very depressed when the invoices start coming in on the end of the month, but imagine working at that company. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to have set some of the boundaries up front and thought of some of the scenarios up front when you're in that stage. Or you'll end up in this kind of situations where the model just gets unplugged, your product stops working. And you have to respond under pressure and under stress, which is not a good place to be. So my recommendation to you would be to think about the blast radius. Actually, I came from town, so we did a lot of stuff like that. Blast radius. So basically, figure out what are all the critical processes where you're using AI, and or any other kind of technology that is dependent on that part. And map out, is this something we can carry the weight of it being down for an hour, for a week, for a day? Can we replace it easily? What is the impact of the technology that we're actually using? A good thing to think about. Because in the end of the day, it's about building a partnership that lasts. That's what I'm trying to do here. And if you think about this from day one, maybe not day one, maybe week one. And this is also where the analogy falls apart. If I architect my relationship so I can easily replace my spouse, that's probably not the proper analogy anymore. But you can think about that part. And again, you probably solved this already for cloud infrastructure. Yeah, right? If not, talk to our system. No. I have 3 suggestions for you. So, and I'm not the most senior engineer in the room, but these are 3 things I would think about when I was running a project. So, think of some kind of a model router. Again, this is what I liked about the talk. Have some way to unplug and plug in something else. If you're currently using Anthropic for some kind of very cool dashboard to do analysis, maybe at some point the customer will say, hey, I don't want this data to go all the way to the US. Can you also run it locally? Yeah, you can, because you architect. The value is not so much in, well, there is value in the model, there's tremendous value in the model. But the biggest value is in the data that you own. If you're a mechanical company and you weld pieces of metal together, and you use your AI to visually inspect and figure out, hey, is this a good weld or a bad weld? That training data, that is your asset. Having that context, having that training data also allows you to use a different model at some point. And the third one is the one I already talked about. Have a plan B. Have kind of a backup plan for if everything blows up. Make sense? It's getting quiet, so either I'm doing a good job or you're falling asleep. In case of the latter, why is the clicker stopping? It's now your turn. There's a bit of paper over there, and there's pens. For those of you who didn't took pens and paper from the stash in the beginning, I talked about these 5 stages. And what I would like you to do is create a card. You get 1 minute to create a card. And on the front side of the card, or a piece of paper, you write a number, which is the stage that your company is currently in. And don't worry, next slide I'll show them again. So you put stage 1 with a big circle around it, then you flip the card, and you think, hey, what would it take for us to move to stage 2? So if I am in a situation where usage is starting to get widespread, what move should I make to safely move to the stage of your first budget? Yeah? You write that on the flip side of the card. Question or the exercise clear? Papers are being distributed. You thought you could just sit down, pizza, beer, listen to some people. You had to do actual work. Does everybody have a pen and paper? So first, front side of the paper, you write on the number you are, draw a little circle around it. Flip side of the paper, what is the move you have to make to safely move from one stage to another? Or back if you want, but it would be really courageous. Yeah? Exercise clear? 1 minute. Right. Try to write really. Oh. Ten seconds left.
Wat moet ervoor zorgen dat je naar de volgende stand moet gaan?
Ja, dat is best voorzichtig. We zijn er niet verleden. Geen hand in. Mag goed.
All right. Time box is up. Do you need more time, or did you all manage to write down something? This is the interactive part of the presentation, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Swap cards with somebody. Yeah. And again, swap with somebody else. Swap once more. All right. Now. All right. Hopefully you don't have your own card anymore. Now, read the card, and let me finish the instructions first. You will read the card, and then grade the card on a scale from 1 to 5. 5 being the most brilliant ideas you've ever read, and 1 being yeah. Write down a number on the card, on the part of the card where the solution is written. Yeah. So read the card, write down, grade the card on a scale from 1 to 5. There should be no need to talk. Unless you need somebody else input for, you can always show it to ChatGPT. Say, hey, I should rate it. Everybody done it. Okay, let's swap cards again. 1 to 5.
Wait, that's me.
1 to 5. Have you done? Swap your cards again. A different person. As long as you don't end up with the same card.
No, 5.
Pass the cards around. All right. It's also workout for me. All right, you have a new card. Same example. Read the card. If you think it's a brilliant idea, you give it 5 points. If you think it's a meh idea, you give it 1 point. If you think it's in between, you give it 3 points. Yeah? Read the card, grade the card. Let's go.
Heb je zelf geleerd?
Oh.
You could be influenced by other graders. If you're done, pass the card.
Ik moet met iemand wisselen.
This is the final time.
This is the one I already read.
All right, final time. Read the card, grade the card.
You have your own card or someone else's card?
Thomas, ik heb iets voor 3 minuten.
So cool. I don't have anything. Someone stole my thing.
What?
No, ik heb mijn kaartje. Ik heb...
Ah, yeah, it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere.
All right, you finished grading. You should now have 3 numbers on your card. Now will come the most difficult part of this entire evening. Add the 3 numbers together. I know, you can always ask Paul to do it for you. Yeah. All right. So normally you pass around a couple more times, but someone signaled me I'm running out of time. Who has 15 on his card? Giel. What stage are they in?
There's 4 numbers, so.
Figure out, okay, you have multiplied by 3/4. Who has 15? 14? 13? If we end up at 3, it means you're a very dumb audience. Eh? Nobody had a good idea. 12? 12.
I've not one line by 3 because I've only have one letter on my
How hard? Alright. Explain. What stage and what is your advice?
So we're at stage 1.
Yep.
We're just using Copilot, just the LLM.
Yep.
And we're now trying to get to stage 2. And so we are trying to assign with a development company.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it happens to be Baseflow. And we make the prototype together, and we're trying to inspire management to make a step to 2. But we try to do it with policies also.
Yeah. So you have a first use case, maybe you're even trying to get to move on. Maybe run a pilot with somebody who has a little bit of experience in that area and try to build something or real data on a real or mocked-up data, but a real business case. Because the CEO will not be convinced by the screens that Abdallah showed him, because it looks too basic, too abstract for them. They want to see their business, they don't want to see the technology. Good. Other people with 12. 11. 10? Yeah, 11. Okay, but you can just read it.
It's at phase 3.
Yep, phase 3. So you have money.
Divine asks CEO to define boundaries on success.
Okay, have a conversation with the CEO. Hey, we're spending all this money. Would you like us to understand what is important to you before the bill comes? Or after the bills come? Because I can imagine your tone of voice is going to be slightly different. So that's a very good advice. All right, we don't have time for all of them, but make sure I get the cards, I'll photograph them, and then I'll try to convince Marty to send them out to all of you. No, we'll figure out a way to get them all to you in the meetup if you need it. So you can read all those advice. What happened? No, is this I told you we're going to steal more time. What I try to do is like wisdom of the crowd. Okay, so you as an organization, you as a people, already know all the answers. Just try to find a way to get them to the service. And when it comes to introducing AI or putting AI in your product, I would argue that you probably won't have the most beautiful model. At least this is true for my wife.
She's not here, right?
Yeah, she's not. Don't try to have the most beautiful model. Try to have the one that has the capability that solves your problem and the resilience that it doesn't break down when you start using it. So that was it. I would advise you to stop leaving the key under the doormat, because when it's 20 minutes past 11, you should be sound asleep and not find yourself locked out of your own house. Yep, that was my talk.
All right. Any questions for Chris? Not all at once.
Well, what are some models that are in the EU, for
Well,
example?
There's a couple of them. The next speaker,
Wouter?
not sure where he is. Wouter is actually PM at Mistral. Mistral specializes in smaller local models. And for example, ASML is using European models on European soil, on their own infrastructure. But you can imagine what happens if they start uploading their schematics and their software to either the US or to China. That's definitely not a situation that you want to be in. And the other one that we are already experimenting with is open weight models, where we basically run the models on our own infrastructure and train them with our own data. And you can even take a US model like Gemma, which is the open weight model from Google, and you can run it in your own infrastructure with your own data, and it's safe for usage.
Thanks.
I think. You can never be 100% sure.
You can ask him.
Yeah. Other questions?
Thank you, Chris. All right, give it up to Chris. All right, we're going to take a short break once again. Use the restrooms again, have a little talk, and then in a few minutes we'll start with Walter.
Ja, dat is wel handig, want je mij dat moet altijd doen.